The spooky season is upon us. The remnants of summer and September are coming to a close, and soon we'll be entering into the fog, the fall, and the inevitable 31st day of October, Halloween. It's really exciting that we're coming up on this October 31st again. We have a lot of horror-related content to look forward to. Some I'm very excited about. That includes Halloween Kills. I'm very anticipated to see where the story is going to go for that. There have been some decent horror movies this year. Not too many. I haven't seen too many, but I have seen a few. One of the films that I actually really enjoyed this year, which was a breath of fresh air, I have to say, because let's just put it this way. Content from Hollywood has been lacking, for lack of better words. It's been filled with things that I'm not particularly fond of, things that many people are not particularly fond of. So, whenever we get any kind of media that doesn't blatantly insult fans based on political affiliation, race, gender, sexual orientation, it's nice to see it happen, because it's in short supply. But one of the films that I really enjoyed this year was Malignant, which was James Wan's feature film that he returned to in regards for directing. So Malignant was a very good old-fashioned horror film. It had many of those James Wan isms, if you will. If you've seen the Conjuring films, you'll know what I'm talking about. Or even films like Insidious, where James Wan has a certain directing style, a certain art style, those James Wan isms, from the music to the camera angles. And Malignant was a welcome return to form for James Wan, and it was a good old-fashioned horror film. That's the best way I can describe it. It had a nice little twist, and I was genuinely happy to see the film. It was a very pleasant Sunday. I was with my family, and we went to go see a movie to commemorate my mother's birthday. And Malignant was on the list, and we were all pleasantly surprised, being that we know what Hollywood has been doing for the past few years now. This was a nice film that didn't have many identity politics or any kind of BS involved, so that was nice and refreshing. Another film that I had heard about was Free Guy. Now, Free Guy isn't a horror film. It's a nice little comedy starring Ryan Reynolds set in a video game universe. And while I haven't seen the film, I've heard some really good things about it, particularly that it doesn't really involve a lot of the BS politics that we've become accustomed to in film. So having a film that doesn't include much BS politics and agenda pushing is very refreshing, especially for me, because I've been following the recent trend of politics in film since, I want to say, 2012. I'll be going into more depth on this when I start up a new series that we are developing, which is called The War on Pop Culture. This series is going to entail many different aspects of entertainment, being that this is an entertainment-based channel. We're going to be talking about movies, TV shows, and of course we're also going to be covering the downfall of our favorite entertainment, because it's especially relevant these days, looking back in retrospect to, I want to say, the beginning of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where early on the movies were really good, there wasn't much politics shoved into it. You don't get that until more recently. Like I said, starting in 2012, that's where I personally noticed a sort of trend beginning to take precedent in film. And that's what the War on Pop Culture is going to be about. We're also going to have several different guests on the show to discuss it, and each episode will contain different subjects. And what we want to do is to focus on one subject, maybe two per episode. That way we have a nice catalog for people to reference whenever they want to check out any of the episodes in the series. We want to be in a nice formal position as possible. What I mean by that is when you open up the War on Pop Culture catalog, so to speak, you'll be able to see different aspects of the war on pop culture that we are talking about. So, for example, tokenization of comic book characters. That's a pretty big subject. A lot of people don't like talking about it necessarily because the argument usually is that we're just toxic fans that don't appreciate what's being given to us, or that we're racist for some reason. And so that's what this series is going to be covering. And I'm very excited to get into it because I myself have a lot of things to say on it, and I feel that it's very relevant to today because the quality of entertainment is lacking. Many different people that have talked about this subject have said this line that Hollywood is creatively bankrupt, and I agree 100%. If you just look at the movies that have come out over the past, I want to say just not even 3 years, you can see how it's just bland, it's cookie cutter, it's just a clone of better films, and Hollywood is in desperate need of a refresher, or really, I think Hollywood just needs to go away, if I'm being honest, because they've done so much harm and disservice to beloved franchises. They've bastardized them. They've changed them into a point where they're just not recognizable anymore. We've seen this with Star Wars. We've seen this especially with Doctor Who. And, I mean, Doctor Who in and of itself could be a whole episode for the War on Pop Culture because that show has been disastrously destroyed, and it's just a shame because you have a show with such a long-lasting legacy and it's undone by one series, right? The first season of the new Doctor, that being the 13th Doctor starring Jodie Whittaker, had destroyed the legacy of that show, which is a monumental feat if you think about it, because being able to destroy the legacy of a show with only one season, that's pretty impressive. It's not a good thing at all, but it is impressive nonetheless, and it just shows that there needs to be a counterbalance to the current regime of entertainment. People like Eric July over on YouTube, and he does a really good job of identifying the BS in entertainment. He's very well versed in the comic book world. He knows his stuff when it comes to tokenization of popular characters. And tokenization wasn't a term I was familiar with until I found his channel. And I found his channel due to some things that happened over here on our channel regarding the firing of an actress. And I won't go into detail here. That'll be a story saved for the War on Pop Culture. But nonetheless, I found his channel, and he started talking about tokenization of popular characters, especially in the Marvel films. We saw a lot of tokenization in the Marvel films with certain characters that were a certain way, and they hadn't changed for the movies. So tokenization is a subject that we're going to be getting into in the War on Pop Culture. But I would highly suggest that you check out Eric July's channel, because the man knows his stuff, and he's a very entertaining guy, and he's very entertaining to watch, so make sure you guys go check him out if you haven't already. For those probably watching or listening, you probably know him already. And one of the biggest reasons why I'm mentioning him in this video is that he's coming up with a new comic book series, a comic line, his own universe. I believe he's referred to it as the Ripperverse. And it's important that people like him and people that are in the creative sphere start pushing their content more. Because right now you could say that Hollywood and the Hollywood elitists have a monopoly on entertainment. So having smaller channels, indie content creators to promote their content is crucial if we're going to have a counterbalance to, for example, Marvel and DC in the comic book world, because the comics over there are becoming much more trash. For example, the daughter of Starfire, and I can't remember the name of the series, but I watched so many videos. I even looked online and started reading through some of the content that's within that particular comic series, and it looks like trash, and it reads like trash, and this is supposed to be DC Comics, the home of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, all these popular characters, and we get this little series talking about Starfire's daughter looking like, well, a tub of goo. And I don't understand the appeal of this character or how she looks. It looks completely off, and I was confused when I seen it, because I thought that this was like a parody, the typical SJW leftist, right? Where this was like making fun of that sort of stereotype. But no, it wasn't. It wasn't a stereotype, or it wasn't a joke at all. It was real. It was something that DC greenlit. They said, yep, let's put it into production. Let's put it out to the masses, and it's going to make a crap ton of money. It's going to be very successful, and I don't think it was. I'm not following any of the numbers on it, but I'm fairly certain that it wasn't successful. Most of the people that I had seen covering this thing, they said it was trash, and that's why I was hesitant to even look at it myself, because I saw that first image and I just wanted to bleach my eyes. That's how I felt. It was really that bad. So it's important that we promote more smaller content creators and pay close attention to the quality, because Hollywood and the comic book industry, they need rivals. And the thing with rivals is that it actually promotes growth. The competition strives people to be better. It gives them the inspiration to go above and beyond to make the good quality content. But because there is no real competition, even though Marvel and DC are completely different entities, they're both following the same BS agenda that's infected entertainment as a whole. So having a rival to them is important. So as you guys know, if you've been following us on our social media, particularly on Twitter, we went to the Fan Expo Dallas Comic Con this past weekend as of recording this. It was a great time seeing a bunch of cosplayers, seeing a bunch of creators, comic book artists, picking up on some nice, juicy merchandise. Particularly for me, I was excited to pick up a Halloween 2 2-pack that had Laurie Strode and Dr. Loomis. I was very happy to pick that up. I've been looking for that for a long time, and being able to finally get my hands on it was very exciting. We also met several celebrities, one of whom I was really excited to meet again was voice actor Nolan North. And for those who don't know, Nolan North is the voice of Dr. Edward Richtofen in the Call of Duty Treyarch Zombies franchise, or Zombies series. And we had recently done a little bit of a video trying to get well wishes to fellow voice actor Tom Kane, who was the voice of Takeo Misagi in Zombies. He had a stroke a few months ago, and it was recently announced that he would have to retire from voice acting due to the stroke. So we here at the C-Files wanted to make a tribute video with Nolan North. And you can check out that video here on the channel. And that was really exciting. I was really happy to be able to meet Nolan North again and to do that video. It was very important for us because we love Nolan North and we love Tom Kane, both phenomenal voice actors. So it was really nice to meet him again. And I also came across a comic book creator that I wanted to briefly talk about. So his name is Scott Payne. He's from Sharp Edge Comics. He's the founder, owner, and comic book writer and creator. And I picked up a comic book series that intrigued me. He got me into it. It's called Chaotic Flux. It's a sort of dark superhero sci-fi horror series. And I have the first copy here. And it was really good. I hadn't touched a comic book and thoroughly read it in a few years, but picking up on this series, I actually really enjoyed it. And I would recommend that you guys also check him out. You can find him on Twitter at FluxChaotic. He also has a Facebook page, Sharp Edge Comics. And I'm just trying to promote his content because I found worth in it. I thought it was really good. And as I said previously, promoting the smaller content creators to have a rival for the Marvel and DC giants is very important. So whenever you guys get a chance, check out Chaotic Flux, Scott Payne, and Sharp Edge Comics, and you just might like what they got there. So I'm going to close out here, but I just wanted to reverberate what I stated previously, that the C-Files podcast is going to be starting a series called The War on Pop Culture. We're also going to be doing a series of movie reviews, collabing with different creators, including Flet's House of Horror. We're going to be talking about the Halloween films. We're going to be reviewing Halloween Kills when it comes out, so make sure you stay tuned for that. It's going to be a fun October. I always do like October and the Halloween season. I like the dressing up. I like the spooky atmosphere, the jack-o'-lantern pumpkins. It's all very classy and entertaining and just something fun to do. So thank you guys very much for listening, and until next time, my fellow investigators, remember, the entertainment is out there. From the C-Files podcast, I'm Special Agent Spooky Clutter.
I'm Special Agent Carter Sauce.
Special Agent Dr. Rick Toffin.
And until next time, fellow investigators, remember,
the entertainment is out there.